That the person you desire most might also be the one hiding the most dangerous secret of your life. A secret that could destroy friendships, betray loyalties, and change destinies forever. This story of Cristina and Lenin is not just about passion, it's about temptation, trust, and the shocking twist no one saw coming. If you love dramatic stories filled with mystery, romance, and unforgettable endings, make sure you subscribe now and stay with us until the final moment, because the truth waiting at the end will leave you speechless. The summer night in the small coastal town felt heavier than usual, as if the air itself carried secrets that had waited years to be revealed, and Cristina stood by the balcony of her apartment watching the quiet street below while the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore reminded her how quickly calm waters could turn into storms. She had lived in that town her entire life, yet everything felt different since Lenin had returned after years away, because Lenin was not just an old acquaintance or a childhood memory but someone whose presence stirred emotions she had tried to bury long ago, emotions that were dangerous, complicated, and impossible to ignore, and the moment she heard a knock at her door that evening she already knew who it was, because somehow her heart always recognized when he was near. When she opened the door, Lenin stood there with the same confident smile he used to have, though time had sharpened his features and added a quiet intensity in his eyes that made him even more difficult to resist, and for a moment neither of them spoke, because sometimes silence says more than words ever could, yet the tension between them carried years of unfinished conversations and unspoken feelings. Lenin stepped inside slowly, glancing around the apartment as if searching for fragments of the past they once shared, and Cristina felt the familiar mix of excitement and fear building inside her because she knew that letting him into her home might also mean letting him back into her life, something she had promised herself she would never do again. Years earlier they had been inseparable friends who spent endless afternoons by the sea dreaming about the future, but those dreams had shattered the day Lenin left town without saying goodbye, disappearing suddenly and leaving Cristina with questions that no one could answer. And now he had returned as if time had simply paused, expecting everything to fall back into place. "You look exactly the same," he said softly, though the way he looked at her suggested he knew that was not entirely true, because Cristina had changed in ways he could not yet understand, changes shaped by heartbreak, independence, and a determination never to be vulnerable again. She crossed her arms and replied that people rarely stay the same forever, and the quiet challenge in her voice made Lenin smile in a way that hinted he enjoyed the tension between them, yet beneath that smile there was something deeper, almost regretful, as if he carried a story he had not yet found the courage to tell. They began talking about small things at first, the town, old friends, memories from childhood, but the conversation gradually drifted toward the question that had been waiting between them since the moment he arrived. Why had he left without a word all those years ago? Lenin hesitated before answering, and in that hesitation Cristina sensed that the truth might be far more complicated than she imagined, because sometimes the past hides layers that cannot be revealed all at once. He finally admitted that leaving had not been his choice entirely, that circumstances beyond his control had forced him to disappear quickly, yet he refused to explain further, which only made Cristina more frustrated because vague answers felt like new betrayals instead of explanations. The tension grew stronger as the night deepened, and the quiet distance between them slowly transformed into something electric, the kind of emotional gravity that pulls two people closer even when they know it might lead to trouble. Cristina realized that despite everything she had tried to forget, the connection between them had never truly vanished, and Lenin seemed to feel it too because every glance they exchanged carried an intensity that neither could ignore. Eventually they moved to the balcony where the cool ocean breeze softened the heat of the evening, and for a moment they simply stood there watching the moonlight shimmer across the water, sharing a silence that felt strangely intimate. Lenin spoke again, this time with a seriousness Cristina had never heard in his voice before, telling her that coming back to the town had not been an accident but a decision he had made after years of searching for something he had lost, and though he never said her name directly, Cristina understood that he meant her. The realization made her heart race because part of her wanted to believe him while another part warned her that trusting him again might reopen wounds she had barely managed to heal. She asked him what had really brought him back, and his answer surprised her because he admitted he had returned to uncover the truth about something that happened the night he left. An event involving people in the town who had more power than anyone suspected. People who had manipulated circumstances in ways that changed both their lives. Cristina listened carefully, sensing that the story he was hinting at might connect to rumors she had heard years ago but never fully understood. Rumors about secret deals, betrayals, and a mysterious disappearance that the town had quietly forgotten. As Lenin revealed fragments of what he knew, Cristina began realizing that his sudden departure might not have been abandonment after all but a forced escape from a dangerous situation, and the possibility that she had misunderstood him for years stirred emotions she could barely process. However, the biggest shock came when Lenin confessed that someone close to Cristina had been involved in those events, someone she trusted deeply, though he refused to reveal the name yet because he needed proof before exposing the truth. The revelation left Cristina torn between disbelief and curiosity, because imagining that someone she loved might have played a role in such secrets felt impossible, yet Lenin's sincerity made it difficult to dismiss his words. As the night continued, their conversation shifted between past memories and the uncertain future ahead, and slowly the emotional walls Cristina had built around herself began to crack, allowing the warmth of their connection to return in quiet, subtle ways, until eventually they found themselves standing closer than before, the distance between them shrinking almost naturally as if guided by something neither could control. Their shared history, unresolved feelings, and the mystery surrounding Lenin's return created a powerful bond that made the moment feel inevitable, and when their eyes met again the silence spoke louder than any confession could, because sometimes the heart recognizes truth long before the mind accepts it. Yet just as Cristina felt ready to believe that fate had given them a second chance, a sudden phone call shattered the fragile calm of the evening, and Lenin's expression changed the instant he heard the voice on the other end, his face turning pale with a mixture of anger and urgency that immediately alarmed Cristina. He ended the call quickly and told her that the situation was far more dangerous than he had expected, because the people connected to the past were already aware of his return and were determined to stop him from uncovering the truth. Cristina realized that whatever secrets Lenin carried had the power to threaten not only their future but also the safety of everyone involved, and for the first time she understood that his presence in her life again might pull her into a conflict much larger than their personal history. Despite the danger, however, there was something else growing between them. An undeniable trust that had survived years of misunderstanding. And when Lenin prepared to leave that night he promised Cristina that the next time they met he would reveal everything, including the name of the person who had betrayed them both. After he walked away into the quiet street, Cristina remained on the balcony watching the darkness swallow his figure, her mind racing with questions and possibilities, because she now sensed that the truth waiting ahead would not only expose hidden enemies but also force her to confront feelings she had tried to ignore for far too long. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the peaceful sound of waves, the first signs of a storm were beginning to form, promising that the story of Cristina and Lenin had only just begun, and that the greatest twist of all, the identity of the person who had orchestrated their separation years ago, would soon change everything they believed about love, loyalty, and destiny.